I never thought I'd be standing on my parents' doorstep, being told I didn't exist. The autumn wind whipped around me, scattering golden leaves across the porch where I'd played as a child. The same porch where Dad had taught me to ride a bike, where Mom had taken countless first day of school photos. Now my father's cold eyes stared through me as if I were a stranger. "Emily." His voice was firm, detached. "We don't have a daughter. Please leave before I call the police." Behind him, my younger brother Marcus leaned against the doorframe, a smug smile playing on his lips. The keys to my old bedroom dangled from his belt loop, a deliberate taunt. He'd always been jealous of my success, of my relationship with our parents, or at least, what that relationship used to be. At 32, I'd built a life most people would envy. Senior investment banker at Morgan Stanley, penthouse apartment in Manhattan, and enough disposable income to support my family comfortably. Every month like clockwork, I sent money. $3,000 for my parents' mortgage, $2,000 for their utilities and expenses, $1,500 for Marcus's car payments and insurance. I'd even paid for Mom's knee surgery last year, $45,000 out of pocket because their insurance wouldn't cover it. "Dad," I tried again, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "What's going on?" "We talked just last week about Thanksgiving dinner. Mom said she was making her special cranberry sauce." He didn't flinch. "I don't know who you've been talking to, but we have no daughter. Only our son, Marcus. Now leave, or I'll have to involve the authorities." The door slammed shut. Through the frosted glass, I watched their silhouettes move away, returning to what I assumed was a Thanksgiving dinner I'd spent 3 days looking forward to. The turkey I'd ordered from that expensive organic farm Mom loved sat in my car, probably still warm. My phone felt heavy in my hand as I pulled it out. Opening my banking app, I stared at the scheduled transfers set for next week. Mortgage, utilities, Marcus's payments. My thumb hovered over the cancel button. "Ms. Walker?" A voice called from the sidewalk. I turned to see Mrs. Henderson, our next-door neighbor for the past 20 years, looking concerned. "Is everything all right?" I heard raised voices. I forced a smile. "Everything's fine, Mrs. Henderson. Just a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding," she frowned. "But I saw your parents loading up their car this morning with suitcases. Your mother told me they were going to Marcus's new lake house for Thanksgiving. Said it was just going to be the 3 of them, a proper family holiday." The pieces clicked into place. Marcus's new lake house. The one he'd supposedly bought with his savings from his middle management job at a local car dealership. The same brother who'd been begging me for money just 2 months ago to cover his rent. I pulled up my bank statements on my phone. There they were, a series of large withdrawals from my parents' joint account, which I added them to last year to make managing their expenses easier. Withdrawals that coincided perfectly with the purchase date of Marcus's lake house. They used my money I'd given them for their mortgage and medical bills, to buy my brother a vacation home. And now they were pretending I didn't exist. My finger pressed the cancel button on all scheduled transfers. "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson," I said quietly. "You've been very helpful." Back in my car, I sat for a moment watching the turkey get cold in its fancy packaging on the passenger seat. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Don't bother trying to cancel anything. Mom and Dad already withdrew next month's money. Enjoy your lonely Thanksgiving, sis. Oh wait, you're not my sister anymore." I started the engine, but instead of heading back to my empty penthouse, I drove to my office. The Morgan Stanley building was quiet on Thanksgiving evening, just a few security guards and maintenance staff. In my office, I pulled up my parents' financial records, all the accounts I had access to, all the transactions I'd carefully managed for them over the years. What I found made my blood run cold. The lake house wasn't the only thing. There were jewelry purchases, luxury car payments, expensive restaurants, all using money I'd sent for their basic needs. While I'd been living modestly, saving where I could to support them, they'd been living lavishly and laughing behind my back. But that wasn't even the worst part. Hidden in the transaction history was evidence of something far more sinister. Regular transfers to offshore accounts, suspicious wire transfers, and what looked like carefully disguised money laundering. My professional training kicked in. These weren't just frivolous purchases. This was activity. My hands shook as I gathered the documents. As a licensed banker, I had a legal obligation to report suspicious financial activity. even if it came from my own family, especially if it came from my own family. I picked up my office phone and dialed a number I hoped I'd never have to use. This is Emily Walker, Senior Investment Banker at Morgan Stanley. I need to report potential financial fraud and money laundering. My voice was surprisingly calm. And yes, I have all the documentation. The voice on the other end was professional, efficient. They took down my information, asked for initial details. I answered everything truthfully, including my relationship to the subjects of the investigation. As I hung up the phone, my cell buzzed again. A family group chat I hadn't even known existed. Screenshots of them at the lake house, gathered around a Thanksgiving table. Mom's special cranberry sauce clearly visible. The caption read, "Perfect family dinner. Just us, no outsiders." I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the New York skyline as darkness fell. They thought they'd hurt me, thought they'd won. They had no idea what was coming. Opening my laptop, I began composing emails, one to my lawyer, one to a forensic accountant I trusted, and one to a realtor. It was time to sell my penthouse. I wouldn't be needing such an expensive place anymore, not now that I had no family to support. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. "Emily, it's Mrs. Henderson. I just wanted you to know I have security cameras on my porch. They caught your parents and Marcus laughing after you left. They were bragging about how they'd finally gotten rid of their cash cow. I recorded everything. If you need it, it's yours." I smiled for the first time since arriving at that doorstep. "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson," I typed back. "I think I'm going to need everything you have." Tomorrow would be a new day. And while they enjoyed their stolen lake house and their perfect family Thanksgiving, I would be setting in motion events that would remind them exactly who I was. Their daughter. Their sister. And most importantly, their worst nightmare. The week after Thanksgiving passed in a blur of activity. My penthouse, listed at a competitive price, sold within 3 days. I moved into a modest but comfortable apartment in Brooklyn, channeling the difference into my war chest. Every penny I'd saved would go toward ensuring justice was served. Mrs. Henderson's security footage proved invaluable. The crystal-clear audio captured their entire conversation on the porch after I'd left. Did you see her face? Marcus had laughed, jingling my old room's keys. Little Miss Wall Street finally put in her place. "She'll come crawling back," Mom's voice dripped with contempt. "She always does, trying to buy our love. But we got what we needed. The lake house is ours now. And thanks to my clever boy's idea about those offshore accounts," Dad added proudly, "she'll never trace where the rest went." I played the recording for my forensic accountant, James Morrison, in his downtown office. His expression darkened as he listened. "They've given us everything we need," he said, pausing the playback. "Admission of intent, acknowledgement of offshore accounts. Emily, this isn't just family betrayal anymore. This is serious fraud." I nodded, pushing a stack of financial documents across his desk. "Here's everything I've gathered so far. Bank statements, transfer records, property deeds. I need to know exactly how deep this goes." James spent hours going through the papers, his frown deepening with each page. Finally, he looked up, removing his glasses. "Your brother isn't just using the money for luxury purchases," he said gravely. "These patterns suggest he's running a money laundering operation through the car dealership. Your parents' accounts are being used as a clearinghouse. The money you've been sending them? It's being used to legitimize illegal funds." My stomach churned. "How much are we talking about?" "Based on these transactions?" He circled several numbers with a red pen. "At least $2.5 million has moved through their accounts in the past year alone." The lake house was just the tip of the iceberg. I thought about all those times Marcus had called, begging for just a little help with his bills. How Mom had cried about their mounting medical expenses. Every emotional manipulation designed to keep their scheme running. "What's our next move?" I asked. "We've already reported the suspicious activity," James replied. "But if you want to make sure they can't hide anything, we need to move fast. They'll start destroying evidence the moment they realize their accounts are being investigated." I pulled out my phone, showing him the latest text from Marcus. "Thanks for canceling the transfers, sis. Mom's crying about not being able to afford her medications. Hope you're happy being heartless." "They're still trying to manipulate me," I said. "They don't know that I know about the fraud." James leaned forward. "That's our advantage. But Emily, you need to be prepared. When this breaks, it's going to get ugly. Family fraud cases usually do. I thought about my father's cold eyes as he denied my existence, my mother's voice planning my humiliation, Marcus's smug satisfaction at finally winning. It's already ugly, I replied. Let's make it honest. The next morning, I met with Sarah Chenma, my lawyer. Her office overlooking Central Park reflected her success in handling complex financial crime cases. The good news, she said, reviewing the evidence, is that you've documented everything meticulously. The bad news? Your name is on some of these accounts. We need to establish your innocence clearly. I have emails, I told her, pulling out my phone. Every time they ask for money, claiming specific needs, medical bills, mortgage payments, utilities. I can prove I was deceived about where the funds were going. Sarah nodded approvingly. Good. We'll need character witnesses too. People who can testify to your integrity and verify you had no knowledge of their criminal activities. Mrs. Henderson has already agreed to testify about Thanksgiving, I said, and my colleagues at Morgan Stanley can speak to my professional ethics. Perfect. Sarah made some notes. Now, about your brother's car dealership. Our investigation suggests it's the center of the laundering operation. Do you have any information about his business partners? I hesitated. There was one name I heard repeatedly, someone called Vincent Rossi. Marcus mentioned him at family dinners, said he was a silent investor in the dealership. Sarah's head snapped up. Vincent Rossi. Emily, he's a known figure in organized crime. If your brother is working with him, she left the sentence hanging. The implications hit me hard. My brother hadn't just betrayed me, he'd gotten our parents involved in something potentially dangerous. What do we do? I asked. We take this to the FBI, Sarah said firmly. Today, your evidence could be crucial in a larger investigation. By evening, I'd spent 4 hours with FBI agents going through every detail. They were particularly interested in Mrs. Henderson's recording and the pattern of offshore transfers. You've done the right thing, Ms. Walker, Agent Torres told me. But from this point forward, you need to be extremely careful. Don't contact your family. Don't respond to their messages. Let us handle everything. That night, alone in my new apartment, I received another group chat message. A photo of Mom, Dad, and Marcus at some expensive restaurant. The caption read, Family dinner at Vincenzo's. Some of us deserve the best. The irony of them dining at a restaurant owned by Vincent Rossi wasn't lost on me. I forwarded the photo to Agent Torres, then blocked the number they'd used. Let them think I was hurt, sulking, too wounded by their rejection to fight back. Let them enjoy their ill-gotten gains and their smug superiority. The investigation was moving forward. Their world would crash down soon enough. My phone rang, Mrs. Henderson again. Emily, dear, your brother was just here, asking for your new address. He seemed angry, said something about teaching you a lesson about loyalty. I thanked her for the warning and immediately called Agent Torres. Within an hour, I had a protective detail assigned to me. We've seen this before, the agent explained. When fraudsters realize they're about to lose everything, they sometimes lash out at whoever they blame. As I lay in bed that night, I thought about the family photos I still had on my phone. Birthday parties, graduations, holidays, years of memories that now felt like elaborate lies. I scrolled through them one last time, then hit delete all. The past was gone. I had to focus on the future and on making sure justice was served. A text from James popped up. Found something big in the offshore accounts. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. This could be the smoking gun we need. I set my alarm, knowing tomorrow would bring me one step closer to exposing their true nature to the world. They'd chosen to erase me from their family. Soon, they'd learn exactly what that meant. James' office was unusually quiet when I arrived the next morning. The forensic accountant sat behind his desk, 3 monitors displaying complex financial diagrams and transaction flows. His expression told me everything. This was bigger than we'd imagined. You might want to sit down for this, Emily, he said, turning one monitor toward me. Remember those offshore accounts? They weren't just for hiding your money. Your brother was using them to run a sophisticated vehicle export scam. The screen showed a complex web of transactions, all flowing through seemingly legitimate businesses. At the center was Marcus's dealership. They'd buy luxury cars here, James explained, using laundered money. Then they'd ship them overseas at inflated prices, claiming insurance on damaged vehicles. Your parents' accounts were used to claim the insurance payouts. I stared at the numbers. How much? Conservative estimate, $15 million over the past 2 years. James handed me a USB drive. I've documented everything. But Emily, there's something else. Something personal. He pulled up another document, a trust agreement I'd never seen before. Your grandmother's inheritance, he said softly. The one your parents told you went to Marcus because of her dying wishes. It was meant for you. All of it. They forged documents to redirect the funds. My hands started shaking. Grandma Helen had passed away 3 years ago. I'd accepted Mom's explanation that she'd left everything to Marcus because he needed it more. The inheritance had been substantial, nearly $2 million. They showed me her will, I whispered. I saw it. You saw a fake, James replied. We found the original in the encrypted files on your father's cloud storage, along with a letter she wrote to you, explaining why she chose you as her heir. My phone buzzed. Agent Torres calling. I put it on speaker. Ms. Walker, we're moving in today, she announced. The evidence is overwhelming, and we have reason to believe they're planning to flee the country. We need you to stay away from any locations they might be. As if on cue, my work phone lit up with a message from the building's security desk. Ms. Walker, your brother Marcus is here demanding to see you. Should we let him up? No, I said firmly, and call this number immediately if he returns. I gave them Agent Torres's contact. I spent the next few hours in James' office, watching the operation unfold through updates from the FBI team. They hit multiple locations simultaneously: the dealership, my parents' house, the lake house, and 3 other properties I hadn't even known about. At 2:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a news alert. Major FBI raid at local luxury car dealership. Owner and associates arrested in international fraud investigation. Minutes later, the messages started pouring in. Mom, what have you done? How could you betray your family like this? Dad, you'll regret this. No one will ever trust you again. Marcus, I'm going to destroy you for this, sis. Watch your back. I forwarded each threat to Agent Torres without responding. Then a different message came through from Mrs. Henderson with a video attachment. Thought you should see this. They tried to break into your old room before the FBI arrived, looking for something in the floorboards. The video showed my parents and Marcus frantically prying up floorboards in my childhood bedroom, growing increasingly panicked when they couldn't find whatever they were looking for. I smiled, remembering the hidden compartment in my closet where I'd actually kept my important documents as a teenager, the same place where, coincidentally, I'd hidden a recorder the last time I visited, right after they'd started acting strangely about the lake house. Check my old closet, I texted Agent Torres. Hidden panel, back right corner. There might be something useful there. An hour later, she called back. Found it. The recordings. They're discussing everything. The fraud, the inheritance theft, even plans to frame you if they got caught. This is the final nail in their coffin. I walked to my office window, watching the sun set over Brooklyn. In the reflection, I barely recognized myself. The dutiful daughter who'd supported her family without question was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who refused to be a victim. My office phone rang, the front desk again. Ms. Walker. Mrs. Patricia Walker is here. She's crying, saying she needs to speak with her daughter. I thought about all the tears Mom had shed over the years, each one carefully calculated to manipulate me. Not anymore. I don't have a mother, I replied, echoing Dad's words from Thanksgiving. Please escort her out. Later that evening, Sarah called with updates. The FBI had frozen all their accounts. The lake house and other properties were being seized. Marcus was facing multiple federal charges, and my parents would likely be indicted as co-conspirators. They're asking to make a deal, she said. They want to bring in Vincent Rossi in exchange for leniency. I laughed humorlessly. Let me guess. They're hoping I'll speak up for them. Tell the prosecutors what wonderful parents they've been. Actually, Sarah's voice held a note of satisfaction. They're learning that having no daughter works against them now. You can't claim family loyalty from someone you've disowned. As night fell, I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by unpacked boxes. My phone had finally stopped buzzing with threats and pleas. In the silence, I opened my grandmother's letter, the one they'd hidden from me for 3 years. My dearest Emily, it began. I'm leaving you everything because you have what your brother lacks: integrity. Use it wisely, and never let anyone make you doubt your worth. Not even family, especially not family. I folded the letter carefully, thinking about Thanksgiving, barely 2 weeks ago. They thought they were punishing me by shutting that door. Instead, they freed me to open a different one that led to truth, justice, and finally, peace. My phone buzzed one last time. Agent Torres. Thought you'd want to know. Vincent Rossi just rolled on your brother. It's over. I smiled, looking out at the Brooklyn lights. It wasn't over, it was just beginning. And this time, I was writing the story. 6 months after that fateful Thanksgiving, I sat in the federal courthouse, watching my family enter their guilty pleas. Marcus, handcuffed and in an orange jumpsuit, avoided my gaze. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, playing the role of devastated mother even now. Dad just stared straight ahead, his face a mask of stone. The charges were extensive: money laundering, wire fraud, insurance fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming, thanks to their own meticulous record-keeping and their arrogance. They never thought their cash cow daughter would turn on them. In light of the defendants' lack of cooperation and the extensive nature of their crimes, the judge announced, "I am imposing the maximum sentences allowed under the plea agreement. Marcus Walker, 15 years. Robert and Patricia Walker, 8 years each." I felt nothing as they were led away. No satisfaction, no sadness, just a quiet sense of closure. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras and microphones. "Ms. Walker, how does it feel to send your own family to prison?" I stopped, facing the cameras directly. They made their choice on Thanksgiving when they said they had no daughter. I simply showed them what that really meant. That evening, I had dinner with Mrs. Henderson, who'd flown in to testify. We sat in my new garden apartment in Brooklyn, sharing a bottle of wine. "The house sold yesterday," she told me. "Young couple with 2 kids. They're planning to redo your old room as a nursery." I smiled, thinking of my childhood bedroom with its hidden compartments and buried secrets. "Good, that house needs some honest memories. And what about you, dear? What's next?" I showed her the letter I'd received that morning. Morgan Stanley was promoting me to executive director with a new office in London. A fresh start, an ocean away from the shadows of my past. London? Oh, Emily. Mrs. Henderson squeezed my hand. "Your grandmother would be so proud." Later that night, I visited my grandmother's grave for the first time since discovering the truth. I placed white roses, her favorite, against the headstone. "You were right, Grandma," I whispered. "About everything. I just wish I'd known sooner." My phone buzzed. A message from Agent Torres. The FBI had finally cracked my parents' last hidden account. Inside, they'd found emails discussing plans to frame me for the entire scheme if they were ever caught. They'd been plotting my downfall, even while cashing my support checks. But they had underestimated me. They'd raised me to be strong, independent, and successful, then resented me for becoming exactly that. Their perfect plan had backfired spectacularly. The next morning, as I packed for London, a final letter arrived from the prison. My mother's handwriting, shaky but still familiar. "Emily, we're sorry. We know it's too late, but we're sorry. If we could take it all back. Love, Mom." I dropped the letter in the shredder without finishing it. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. My new apartment overlooked the Thames. On my first morning in London, I stood on the balcony, watching the sun rise and feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone rang, James, with one last update. "The court approved the restoration of your grandmother's inheritance with interest. The funds will be released next week." And Emily? They found something else in those emails. Your brother had plans to expand the scheme, using your banking credentials, if you hadn't stopped them when you did. "Sometimes the best family is no family at all," I replied, watching boats cruise down the river. A year after that Thanksgiving doorstep rejection, I hosted my own holiday dinner. Around my table sat the people who'd helped me through the darkest time of my life. Mrs. Henderson, James, Sarah, even Agent Torres. None of them related by blood, yet all of them more family than my family had ever been. To chosen family, I toasted, raising my glass, and to closed doors that lead to better ones. As we enjoyed the meal, my phone lit up with a news alert. "Vincent Rossi pleads guilty, car dealership fraud case closed." The final chapter of my old life was ending. But I wasn't looking back anymore. My new life was ahead of me, built on truth, strength, and the knowledge that sometimes the greatest gift family can give you is showing you who they really are. I'd lost a false family, but I found myself. And that was something worth being thankful for.